If you're into search engine optimization or marketing, then you probably know a tool that's called Ahrefs that shows you the keywords that people use to find your content and shows you search volume for them. But the information is presented as a spreadsheet, so it's quite hard to understand what are the actual keyword combinations that people use and what are the main topics in this search intent. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use AI-powered knowledge graphs from InfraNodus to build a nice visualization of keyword co-occurrences from your Ahrefs tables and show what are the main keyword combinations that people use to find the content, and also what are the main topics, which can be very good for building topical authority around a certain search query. So for example, here I made a search on vagus nerve stimulation and I just see 588 different keywords, and it's quite hard to understand what are the main topics and keyword combinations, whereas here in the graph I directly see that people look for devices that help them with anxiety, so this is the first cluster here. Then epilepsy treatment is a big topic, heart effects, and also ear benefits. So we have this very quick understanding of what are the main search patterns in relation to vagus nerve stimulation, and then we can also see the keyword co-occurrences. So for example, device and ear, I can click on them and then see the different search queries that people use to find this content. So it becomes very useful if you want to get some insights from long tables like this very quickly, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can do that in just a few steps. So let's dive right in. Here I'm using the Keyword Explorer feature of Ahrefs, and I just type in the search query I'm interested in this case it's going to be vagus nerve stimulation. Vagus nerve is the biggest nerve in our nervous system, and it's very good to stimulate it, but we will see what for in just a second. So here I click on matching terms and I see all the different keywords combinations that people use to look for this and that exist out there on the market. So the first thing that you usually do is to filter it by volume, so you show at least from 10 searches a month in the United States. I click show results. It shows me that there is slightly less keywords, 588 keyword combinations. Here I have a very long table, and let's say I just want to understand what are the main keyword combinations and topics here. So I click export and I choose UTF-8 CSV file, all the keywords. So I have a CSV file exported, and then I go into InfraNodus apps page. I import that file here, and I tell InfraNodus that I want to analyze the column with the keywords. So I just want to build a graph from the keyword combinations, and then on the next page I choose to have a filter by difficulty and volume, because that will allow us to see low competition, high volume keywords in the graph and to filter them in the graph. Okay, so I'm selecting these two as filters. I click next, give it a new name, and then click Visualize. And what I'm going to see is that InfraNodus is going to build a graph where every keyword that we have in those search queries on the left is a node, and their co-occurrence is the connection. And then we apply advanced network science methods that allow us to see what are the most relevant nodes that connect different topics together. So they're like the crossroads for meaning circulation in that discourse. And also the colors indicate the different topical clusters that exist out there. So the first thing that you want to do here is to remove the search terms that we made the query for, because otherwise they will take too much attention. So I select the three of them, I hide them from the graph, and then it's a much sparser graph that allows me to see much more information, and the topical structure is much more informative, because when I click here, high level ideas, and I go into main ideas here, I see directly that, okay, there is a big cluster on anxiety, so devices that are used to treat anxiety. This is one. We have another one on heart effects here, so that's another big topic that people are interested in. We have another one on epilepsy treatment, and the last one is on ear benefits. So I get a very quick understanding of the main topics around the search query, something I wouldn't be able to do through this spreadsheet. So that's very useful, because I get a very quick understanding of the discourse and I know how to target it. If I want to have high topical authority in relation to vagus nerve stimulation, I would go for all of those different clusters and talk about how vagus nerve stimulation has all these positive effects. And then, of course, I would focus on a certain aspect that I want to promote or that I want to write about, whether I'm marketing a product. In this case, we can see, by the way, that devices are quite popular. So this is maybe something to focus on if you want to focus more on product. If you are writing research or content, then perhaps you would be more interested to just cover all the different topics, how it's good for heart, epilepsy treatment, how there are different devices that are made for it and so on. Even massage is present here, right? So this would be a way for me to understand how to build my authority around the subject and what are the different topics I should touch upon. Then what I can also do using this graph is to zoom in onto the concepts and keyword combinations that are interesting to me. So for example, I want to see hard effect. I click on those and then I just see the search terms that are just related to hard function and hard stimulation. So what I can actually do here is just to read through all of those different keyword combinations that people use to search for effects on heart rate. For instance, here I can see what effect does it has and so on. I can also just select all those different statements, copy them, and then bring them to my project notes here. And once I bring them here, I can save them. So now I have this information saved into my project notes, and I can ask InfraNodus AI to generate an outline of an article that will touch upon all these different search queries. So that can also give me some ideas for the content I could generate that would relate specifically to this cluster. Okay, I choose a certain topic, see the statements inside, and then generate content ideas related to it. In the same way, because I have this representation of the topical structure, I can also now look for the gaps inside. So what are the different clusters that are not connected yet? And for example, here I have something about ear health and heart and effects on heart rate, but no one is talking about the connection between those two. So if I address this gap, perhaps I could tap into the demands of those two groups of people, but make something that connects them both. So maybe my device, if I'm working on a product, for instance, could ensure that all those different clusters are linked together and that I can offer something that can cover the different needs at the same time, right? So these are the gaps, and then identify the gaps and I focus on them. So this is also a very useful feature of a knowledge graph, something you cannot do here. You don't only see the patterns and the main terms, but you also see what's missing and what are the different connections that you could make that no one has yet made that would somehow ensure that you touch upon all the important topics, but you do it in a way that no one else did, so that you produce some really interesting content in this relation. Another way to use this feature with Ahrefs is to actually use Ahrefs' own content gap feature, but to analyze the results from the content gap using InfraNodus. So in order to do that, you go into Tools and Competitive Analysis, and here you type in the domain you're interested in. So in this case, we'll use the domain of my tool, InfraNodus, and then you have the competing domains listed here. So this is a graph analysis tool, this is a thematic analysis tool, and this is a text analysis tool here, right? I can also add various other tools. Like, for instance, I could just say that, okay, let's only focus on thematic analysis tool. So I'm just going to use this to two different tools and maybe also one text analysis tool here. And then when I click Show Keyword Opportunities, what Ahrefs does is that it shows me what are the keywords that my competitors rank for on the first page that I don't. So these are missed opportunities that I could target in my own workflows, right? And here I have a list of 1,384 keywords. You can also apply additional filters. You can say, okay, show me at least 2 competitors in the top 10. So that will actually reduce this list much more, but sometimes it's also going to be 0. But even if I have 19 keywords, you know, I have to read through all of them. Usually it would actually be much more. If you have a bigger field, then it would be maybe hundreds. So how do you analyze them? Again, here you can export them as a CSV file, all those different combinations. Then you import that file here. And once you import that file here, you have, again, the same flow that you choose to analyze the column with the keywords, and the volume and the keyword difficulty becomes your filters. I'm going to show you how to use it in a second. Content gap, this is a new graph, and then directly you see a pattern of keyword co-occurrences. So I can see that a lot of them rank for qualitative data analysis. That's not something that InfraNodus ranks for. So if I would like to use this opportunity and target this gap, I would create content on qualitative data analysis. Then I can perform the same flow as I showed first on actually analyzing this, right? So this becomes also a very quick way to find some keyword combinations and patterns that you could target. In the same way here, sentiment, and then I can see directly it's related to analysis. So I can do content on sentiment analysis or automatic sentiment analysis. So this is another field I could target and to ensure that my content comes at the top and that I'm shown to the same people who are interested in my competitors. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how to use those advanced filters. So we will go on the previous page here, and as you remember, these were the results for vagus nerve stimulation, but let's say that I want to focus on the keywords that have high volume, low competition. In order to do that, I go into filters, and then I tell the system, okay, show me the keywords with the high volume. I will not choose the highest volume of 2,000 to 200, I will choose 50 to 1,600, because then it means I will have lower competition here. I click highlight, I see that, okay, device, effects, and so on. So this is something that people search for, and then I choose difficulty. That would be, let's say, not the lowest, but just one above the lowest. So I will choose 13 to 27 and click highlight again. And then, very important, I have to go back and choose this toggle here, which will show me the overlap between those two filters. So by default, it shows me both with this volume and the keywords that have this difficulty, but if I choose this option here, it's going to show me the overlap. So the keywords that both have this search volume from 50 to 1,600, relatively high, but relatively low difficulty from 13 to 27, that's very low. I click highlight here, and I see that devices are very important. So all the other stuff, they maybe have lower volume or higher difficulty to get through, but devices, and especially for ears, this is something that has low difficulty but relatively high volume. And if I want to filter it further, I go here and I choose this filter and recalculate analytics, so I can just see this part of the graph only. I click here, and as you can see, there's actually much less nodes. Ear device is the only cluster here, so that means that I probably should focus on that. And here it tells me vagus nerve stimulation device for ears, or vagus nerve ear stimulation device. So that's interesting, because it makes me understand that, okay, there is a lot of demand for vagus nerve stimulation device for the ears, and the competition there is not so high. So that means if I want a low-hanging fruit, I would address it first, and then I could apply other difficulties. So I could say, okay, remove that difficulty and let's increase it a little bit, see what exists out there. There's actually not so much more. There's something on VNS, this is just abbreviation, and also epilepsy, so that could be interesting actually, and maybe also therapy. So I see that epilepsy is going to be more difficult to compete with. And then if I choose the highest difficulty, we already had the highest difficulty, so let's actually go for a slightly higher search volume here. Filter, again, device. So we understand that device and epilepsy is something that we should probably target. The rest is either going to be too much difficulty or it's going to be too low volume, so we will not focus on this. So this is how you would use those filters and be able to filter the graph by difficulty and search volume. So instead of using these filters here, which you also have that are also useful, you can use the filters inside the graph. So I hope you find this workflow useful. Let me know if you have any questions. Try it out with your own keywords. You can also use other tools like SEMrush or any other tools to export this keyword data and then visualize it in InfraNodus and create this nice knowledge graphs that show you an overview of the main topical clusters, that give you an understanding of the discourse around a certain topic, and that also help you find the content gaps between them so that you can understand how to create content that would link those existing topics in new and interesting ways. Thank you.